as well. If you haven't had a chance to look around, do so if you can, and there's some brochures on the Blake here. Not to say that anybody's going to be checking in soon, but you know, check it out. It's a pretty amazing facility here. I had the wonderful opportunity to have a private meeting with the residents earlier today, and we shared a lot of stories of what's going on. They're truly interested in what's going on in Biloxi. They want to make sure that their voter registration is in the proper area so that they can vote on the key issues coming up. So it was a really a fantastic meeting. And lastly, or not lastly, but I do want to acknowledge my wife, Lisa. I know y'all just got to sample a little bit of the pusheradas. There would have been more. She's been here since, there she is in the back, the big smiling face, and my partner. We've been married for about 38 pounds, a pound a year, but 38 happy pounds for sure. But she's been up here since noon doing some pusherada cooking demonstrations with the residents here, and it's been a joy. Like I said, we thought we'd have 3 or 4 dozen, but man, as soon as they came out of the oven, they're gone. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you. So with that, there's a lot going on in your city. I've been your councilman. This is my 3rd term. The ward lines have changed a little bit. So if any of you are here from Camp 4 Jacks or the Lauren Falls area or Taylor Oaks, that is now in Mr. Deming's ward. The rest of you, you're still with me, but I've moved a little bit north into the Wool Market area, up Cedar Lake Road and Hudson Cron to the east, along the Wells Ferry and Paradise Lane and Hickman area. So I'm getting to learn some of the issues that they've had with their roads, with their drainage, and we're trying to put together some projects to kind of fix some of those issues. We have a number of directors and city officials here today. Try to put together a good agenda with some relevant information. As the agenda says, if you hold your questions to the end, I'm going to stick around and answer as many of your questions as I possibly can. And also, if I need to write some information down to get back to you, I'll do that as well after the meeting concludes. I do want to say this also. The mayor, spoke to him this afternoon when I was up at City Hall. He did have plans. Him and Serena actually were going to make it because of the pusheradas, but they had a pressing issue come up that required his attention, and he's working after hours for you, and he just wanted me to acknowledge that he would have been here, but we got some pressing issues that we just need to take care of. But we do have his chief of staff with us today, Mr. Mike Leonard. He'll kick us off today and talk about the Pops Ferry extension and any other news he wants to talk about. Mike?
So you were here collecting votes today here?
No, I wasn't collecting. I was just trying to get them registered.
So my official title is Chief Administrative Officer of the city. It's a little deceiving. I tell everybody the best description is I'm the guy with the shovel behind the parade, trying to clean up all the messes. Our mayor is a guy with a new idea every day, and that gets very tiring. And he goes 100 miles an hour, so he no sooner get a new idea that he's got another one for you. So I'm not sure what he's up to today. It'll be interesting to see tomorrow morning. Kenny, you're lucky to have Kenny. He does a great job as councilman.
Hey, Mike, they want you to step closer to this.
Yeah, up to the mic. Yeah.
Mike, to the mic, Mike.
We have 7 councilmen. We refer to them as the 7 dwarfs, actually. But some are more aggressive than others at working your issues. And I can tell you that Kenny doesn't leave any stone unturned. I hear from him literally every day on some issue in this ward that needs some attention. Now let me explain something for my public works director is not here, but you all at one time or another have had an issue with drainage, with a sidewalk that's broken, with a speeding issue or whatever. On those kind of public works issues, we have a citizen services representative who he's a 24/7 guy. He's got a phone number that we put on the bulletin when we put it out each week, month, the one that comes to your home. That number's there, the citizen service representative. If you call him or one of the two ladies that sits helping him, they will record your call. They will initiate a work service request that will go to the various, whatever shop is required to do the work. In some cases, it just goes to the water sewer shop, for example, and they will respond to you. I can tell you, though, that if you don't get the kind of attention that you should get, and that will happen from time to time, that's what you need a councilman for. Kenny will call me direct. It's more appropriate for you to be able to call directly to the citizen services number because you'll get attention quicker. But if you don't get attention from that source, you call Kenny, and Kenny calls me, and I call the council clerks, and the council clerks call the citizen services representatives, so you can see the cycle that eventually it goes back to the same place. But I know that sometimes you can get upset when you don't get an answer. So don't let problems compound. If there's an issue you need attention to, call that citizen service representative number and/or call your councilman, and we'll get on it. There's a tremendous amount of work going on in Biloxi right now. The one that's driving my time mostly is the American Rescue Program Act, which is the government's federal money that has been given to us for water sewer work. We put in right at $10 million worth of projects to the state 2 weeks ago, and those projects are ready to bid and ready to go. And we're hoping that we'll get all 10 million of those that include. Now, there's nothing to award for, but there are other projects that are coming along behind. The nice thing about Ward 6, I forget these are the old Ward 4 people, and many of them. So thanks for that, Kenny. There's no shortage of problems in water sewer in this city. We have virtually all new water and sewer in East Biloxi. In Woolmarket, because it's a lot of new developments there, there's a lot of new infrastructure. But West Biloxi and this part of Biloxi has been left behind. And we're running to try and catch up, but there's a tremendous amount of effort that needs to be put into water and sewer work and drainage. I mean, the drainage is probably the most common call that we get. And oftentimes, drainage is not something we can do anything about. If somebody has their fence down to the ground where the water can't leave your yard, it'll pool up. But our guys will come out and tell you about that. But many times drainage problems result from just the way a house was built, the way the lot is shaped, and so forth. So I've got to tell you, though, I'm very proud of the fact that when we're called and when the call goes to the right source, we do respond. And if you don't believe me, ask Larry Drought. He's sitting back there. He calls on a regular basis to tell me the trash wasn't picked up, et cetera, et cetera. And we jump on it, don't we, Larry, when you call? So I think these meetings are so important. Most important to these council ward meetings, most important thing is your ability to ask us questions. So let me get out of the way. And the Pops Ferry Bridge or expansion? One of the oldest projects we have in our capital project list of projects is the extension of Pops Ferry Road from Pass Road to the beach. We call it the Biloxi Beach Connector Phase 1. I think we've probably been talking about that for 10 years. But this year, after 3 tries at getting some federal money, the mayor pushed through a $14 million bond, which, along with the money that we've cobbled together from other sources, we will be starting that project in 2023. And the main thing that will affect you is not necessarily the road down to the beach, but we will redo the intersection at Pops and Pass. which is a horrible intersection. There are no turning lanes and so forth, so that's going to be a big part of that project. So that's it. It's a go. The money's there. We're finishing up the design. We have to close one more railroad crossing, which we're ready to do, and that project will go out to bid and sometime early this next year, with construction shortly to follow. Now the bridge, I got to tell you, the bridge, y'all suffered through the whole toll issue. That was something that we needed to do. We needed to see how the citizens would react, how badly they wanted a bridge in a hurry, and we found out the answer. So during that time, we had the Mississippi Department of Transportation sort of on hold about which way we were going to go. So once it looked like the citizens were not ready to accept the toll bridge, we've changed our tune now, and we've gone back, and our number one priority is to fix the bridge we have. We've asked the state for $15 million. They've nodded and said, yeah, we think we can help you out to be able to fix the bridge that we have. The new bridge that we've all talked about for a very long time is in the neighborhood of $175 million. That's just not anything we as a city can get done without federal help. But we're talking to the senators and we're asking for help, and we'll see. They've been very good about giving us, as we call earmarks and so forth, for a little project. But $175 million is a little bit for one senator to cough up. So I think those are the two projects that most of you'd be interested in. Anybody here that lives on Brody Road? Yeah. One of the projects that we're putting into the bucket for this next year is a sidewalk project. It'll run the whole length of that so the kids can walk to school. I have to tell you that came from the engineer who's your neighbor, who works for the Development Commission. Yeah, that was his idea. He's the one that pushed it. I give him credit. We will do that as a TIP project, which is a Transportation Improvement Program. That's federal money that gets funneled down to the local planning office. And we're going to be asking now. We're doing one of those projects in Wool Market right now, $1 million sidewalk. I love this $1 million sidewalks. And so we'll do the exact same thing with the Brody Road, Brazier Road area. I always get those backwards. I'm not sure which one is it, Kenny, where we're doing the sidewalk? Brazier Road, yeah. So that's our TIP submission for this next year. Paving, we did a study some years back, maybe 3 years back, of all streets in the entire city, and we rated every city 1 through 8 based on what kind of condition it was. So when a councilman calls me and says, I want a road paved, the first thing we do is look to see, okay, where is it rated against all the other streets in the city? And if it's in the category that needs help, we put it on the schedule, and we schedule the paving. We've been almost 6 months right now without doing any paving because our contract ran out. But that's was awarded this last period, council asphalt contract, and so the council approved that contract. We're ready to go and do some more paving. And with that kind of a contract, all we have to do is write task orders against it. We don't have to go back to council. They've already approved the concept and the line item pricing, so bang, bang, off we go. So kind of off and running. What do you think, Kenny? Get them started? I think questions are important. I've got to tell you, the people sitting up here behind me make up some, but not all, of our department directors, and they're all very good, and they're all very committed to helping you out. So I encourage you to ask them questions about whatever you might be interested in.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you. Couple things I want to touch on. Great report by Mr. Leonard. That Pops Ferry Extension project is really important. What it does is it takes Pops Ferry and it touches a U.S. highway. and it opens up the opportunities to get additional funding for different infrastructure and improvements. So that's something down the road. If we can complete this project, it opens up a lot of opportunities. On the study of the roads that we did a few years ago, I just want to say this, it may change now since I've taken up some of a new area in Ward 6, but at the time, Ward 6 was rated to have the best roads out of any ward out of the 7 wards. So kind of very proud of that we worked hard to get some of that done. I'm going to skip over to public safety. We got a report on crime statistics in our area and a camera program. So who's doing that report today? Okay. Thank you.
Sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Louis Moran. I'm a captain with the Biloxi Police Department. I'm assigned to our Administrative Services Division. We also have Captain Mike Brennan over here. He's with our Operations Section. He's one of our patrol captains. Director couldn't make it tonight, but he sends his warm greetings. As we know, we just coming down off of the Cruising the Coast event week. It's a very long 2-week period for the police department, fire department, public works, and all of your other city departments that contribute to what's always a successful event. I think this year was probably one of the largest event periods that we've had yet in terms of response activity, both in terms of traffic management primarily. And we break a lot of these events down in terms of public safety response versus traffic management response. And Cruising the Coast by far is a traffic management response. I would like to point out that, you know, in this part of the city, Ward 6 has neighborhoods both north and south of the bay, and so different neighborhoods within the ward have different effects with these large events, some greater than others. And so we keep that in mind whenever we're having to divert traffic or having to make adjustments. And the number one priority for public safety during these large events is to make sure that we can keep traffic moving for both the citizens and for emergency response needs. We have on the table, we have some statistical briefs. If you just want to see kind of a snapshot of your voting ward for the last 90 days, I can tell you, comparing to the rest of the city's numbers, you're doing very well in terms of crime mitigation and prevention. A lot of the quality of life issues that we see often in neighborhoods, things like burglaries and traffic complaints, you're very low in those numbers. Percentage-wise, a lot of times what we do is we will look at the relative population compared to the rest of the city in percentages, and then we see where you're at with your response needs. And your response needs in terms of what we're actually having to interdict and respond to are at lower levels than other parts of the city with equitable populations. So you're doing a lot better job, I think, in general with crime prevention strategies in your neighborhoods, whatever they may be. If you don't get a copy, if they run out, email Councilman Glavin, email the police department's chief's office, and we will make sure that you get a copy of those printouts. One of the things we also have on the back is last month in the B newsletter, we wrote up a feature about our crime mapping strategies and how they interact with other departments, mainly the engineering department and our information systems department, which maintains all of our network infrastructure throughout the city. And let me underscore the fact that the city's technological needs are immense. And so that's probably one of the most important departments to keep the city moving and interacting with all the other departments smoothly is our information systems department and engineering departments, because they really do some of the quality of life functions that you're used to, the maps, the being able to track water outages and things of that nature. And so we work very closely with those departments with our crime mapping strategies to make sure that you have all the information that you need on a day-to-day basis for good situational awareness and good public safety awareness in general. I'll probably wrap it up with just mentioning our crime camera program. We're ever developing our crime camera strategies, primarily in the form of pan tilt zoom cameras that we have placed throughout the city, but also in the form of license plate reader cameras that we have at certain intersections throughout the city. And they contribute quite a bit to our ability to develop information for criminal investigations. Last year, just our license plate camera readers alone contributed to the recovery of over $1 million in stolen vehicles. Now, you ask yourself, when we talk about return on investment, the city doesn't make any money for recovering stolen vehicles, but if you think in terms of that is your property that we're recovering, and so that's your money we're saving in terms of your insurance costs and your personal property that's being recovered. The other things that contributes to is the development of information for felony case investigations, and we contributed to a very significant percentage of leads to felony case investigations that might not have otherwise been solved as a result of our crime camera operations and our ability to develop leads that can lead investigators to pursue other avenues. That's pretty much all we have. Did you want to add anything?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I am, and you should be very proud of this police department. They are a very technologically advanced police department. I love to tell this one story. A gentleman was playing the machines at the Golden Nugget, and he hit the jackpot, cashed out, went back to his hotel, which was the Legends, by the way, Kenny Glavin. And two fellows were waiting for him, and they pulled out their guns and said they wanted his money, so they took his money and got in the car and took off. He called the police and reported it. Police immediately went to the Golden Nugget and looked at the video, and they saw the same two fellows standing behind the guy when he hit his jackpot. They engaged the cameras to see in the parking lot to see if the car was there, and they saw the car pull out. Within 2 hours, they had arrested the guy in Mobile. And this is all the technology that your police department has. I mean, there are a good dozen of them rolling around your neighborhoods doing the things that cops do. But they also, behind the scenes, have a very technological approach to things. And that allows them to have a very high arrest record and all the other statistics. So again, I am, and you should be very proud of this police department. You notice that you don't hear them on the news like you'd hear Gulfport.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard. Does anybody have any questions? Any concerns? I have a notepad. I'm ready to write. No one? All right, that was easy. Thank you.
Good report. Thank you so much. To follow up on Mike, we also, the leadership of your police department has also created a citizens police academy. And so they've engaged the community to actually go through a comprehensive, I think it's 12 weeks or 10 weeks? 10. It's 12? Okay. I'll go with 12. 12 week, it's a long program, and it's several hours in the evening, and they get to see the dogs, and they get to see everything, all the aspect of what they do, fingerprinting, some really good stuff. And out of that Citizens Police Academy, I think y'all have hired one or two that have actually joined and are members of our team now. So it goes deep, like Mike was saying. We got the best police department. You don't hear the problems that you hear in other areas, and we hope that we can keep it like that. And they do a tremendous job with all the stuff that we have going on the coast. Another person, before we move on to the next item, I want to acknowledge my colleague sitting here in the back observing everything. I sit right next to him during our council meetings, and that's Councilman Paul Tisdale sitting back here. I appreciate him attending the meeting tonight.
I just want to really make one comment. Kenny, we rotate who runs the council meetings as council president. Kenny's in the rotation now as council president, and he's got to manage the meeting. And the whole time, he's got 3 people like me sitting on one side, 3 sitting on the other side, and we're trying to get his attention, and we're whispering to each other. He's sending him messages, so he really is the ringmaster, because it is a 3-ring circus up there. You just see one ring out there with people who are addressing the council. So he does an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tisdale. we work good together. We've been on the council, this is our third term serving together along with others, and we roll up our sleeves to work for you guys, I assure you. I'm going to move on. I don't know if Nick's here or anybody from the fire department, but I do want to touch on a couple of things. I've highlighted this in some of my ward meetings previous to this one. Very proud across the street, you'll see a state-of-the-art fire station that was constructed. It took a lot to get that going too. It took a lot for the council to make that investment on that we were going to build this one and also the one on the new Fire Station 10 as well. By doing that, a lot of things happened. Number one, we improved the response time to any calls, emergency calls, dramatically. So now we can get to you faster if you have an emergency, and that's really important. We also over here, we almost didn't do it because we were trying to fit the round peg in the square hole on our budget, but we pulled the trigger and we put the new training center that you see behind this fire station. And our firefighters can go in there and simulate different types of fire, different stress points, and it really has paid off. It saved the city a lot of money because we'd have to go to other facilities and train. We can also invite firefighters from other areas to train in that facility as well, so that has definitely helped. Then the other thing it has done and contributed to, it's improved our fire rating. So the fire rate, what happens when your fire rating improves? Your commercial insurance drops, and it saves the businesses money, and it also, your residential insurance drops some, so it saves you and puts more money in your pocket as well. So we got a new fire chief, Nick Geiser. He's doing a great job, and we'll continue to be the best fire department we can in Biloxi.
Buying 3 new fire trucks this year.
Yeah, and how much are those each?
$500,000 apiece.
$500,000, buying 3 fire trucks. They're about $500,000 each. They're state of the art. They have the technology, and they're built as such that it even helps the firefighters don't have to come into contact with carcinogens. And we've done that with their equipment. We've done that with these new design fire trucks. So hats off, and we need to provide them with the best equipment possible to keep Biloxi safer. We'll now move on to our Director of Community Development, Mr. Jerry Creel. He'll give you his glowing report on economic development.
Thank you for allowing us to come and speak tonight. I'm going to run through a number of projects that we've got going on, some citywide and some specifically for Ward 6. But you probably noticed that the BART building downtown at the corner of Raynor and Howard Avenue is being totally restored. That's something that's going to have commercial on the bottom floor and have some residential on the upper floors. Also, the old Wells Fargo building right next to it is being converted into condominiums. The old Josette's building has been converted into downtown apartments. The renovations to the Sanger Theater also have the continuing Margaritaville expansion. You've probably noticed the Ferris wheel and the skylight that's being put up on top of the parking garage, and they have some other things that are being added there as well. We've issued permits for houses to be built on Kivett Street. Downtown developers wanting to build some there. Also an expansion to the Big Play Family Fun Center and the new entrance to Kiesler on Division Street that I think is supposed to be finished up maybe sometime later this year.
November the 4th.
Okay. In Ward 6, some projects that have recently been completed. You probably noticed a new climate control warehouse just across Cedar Lake Road over here. We also had an expansion to the B&G climate control warehouse on Tommy Monroe Road. Probably in a very short period of time, y'all be able to walk across the street to Slim Chickens here and eat over there in that new restaurant. They have their CO. We're basically waiting on them to open. So it's kind of in their hands. Also, the very large building project that's going on down at Arbor Landing Apartments down the road here, they're adding another 224 units to that complex. We have 2 hotels proposed for this area. They're going to be cat-a-corner across the street here. They'll be built in behind the Sonic Drive-In. There are 2 hotels in one building. You'll walk into a common breezeway and there'll be one hotel on this side and one hotel on this side, but that's coming. I just issued a permit last week for a car wash that'll be here at the corner of Pops Ferry and Iron Horse. It's being done by the same developer that's going to be doing the hotels. There's a new medical office proposed for Iron Horse Drive, a new RV storage facility on Tommy Monroe, and construction continues on the Camp David RV Park. And we're expecting to make a couple of big announcements in the near future about a couple of existing shopping centers here that'll involve the names of some big developers, some big chains that'll be coming in. So as soon as the developers allow us to do that, we'll make those announcements. The big things that are happening right now in the city: hotels, apartment, single-family subdivisions. Recently, the way that these builders work is companies like Horton Homes and DSLD, all they want to do is buy lots and build houses. They do not want to get involved in the development aspect of what's going on. They want to keep those crews that they've got together, because they know that if they ever have any downtime, those guys will go off and find other work. So they want to make sure that they keep them all together. So Horton Homes has just bought several lots from the Frisbees in the in the Hidden Springs development that's up in north, I think it's in your ward now, actually, in the north part of the ward. And we also have a new subdivision development going in on Shriners Boulevard. It's called The Preserve. It'll have 209 lots in it, and several subdivisions in other places. We had talked about the one at Camp 4 Jacks Road where the infrastructure is going in right now. We've just created, Councilman Glavin asked us to go back and consider recreating the Commerce Park, the Biloxi Commerce Park, which is the Tommy Monroe Drive that goes all the way back to the end of the cul-de-sac over there. What happened, that was actually developed as an industrial park, and it really didn't work as an industrial park because the lots weren't big enough to handle industrial operations. So it actually built out as what? Medical and professional. And it was under the oversight of the Harrison County Development Commission. Well, a few years ago, the Harrison County Development Commission took their hands off of it, and there were some covenants that they had adopted that governed the design of the buildings that were in there. Well, when they took their hands off of it, there was a sunset clause on those covenants. Those expired last year in 2021. And so we had a developer go in and wanted to do something, and we didn't have any control over how the facade would actually look. So Councilman Glavin asked us to take those covenants that had expired and adopt them over into the land development ordinance. And the council voted to approve that. So now we have those controls over the buildings that go in there to make sure that they have the right kind of facade built on them. A couple of things. The two big things that we deal with right now, other than just development, and you've probably seen it, short-term rental and medical cannabis. Those are the two things that are very popular right now. You've probably seen me get beat up at the council meetings about short-term rental a good bit, but it's one of those things where we're, just trying to find some common ground on that. We're working on an overlay district right now. Also, medical cannabis, is allowed in Biloxi in certain zoning districts, and we've had a lot of people come to us with applications to open those operations. There are some state regulations about how far apart they have to be and what type of facility they have. When it comes to insurance, like the fire department, our building department is rated, and we're also rated on our flood efforts, to prevent damage from flood in the events that we have another event, which we will. We have one of the best building department ratings in the state. We're currently a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. What does that mean to you? If you build a structure while we have that 4 rating, then your insurance company should be giving you a discount on your building insurance because of that good rating that we have. Also,
the lower the rating, the better, right?
the lower the better. Yeah, 1 is the best, 10 is the worst. So a 4 is a very good rating. Now, that rating, that insurance discount that you get there is not cut and dry like the flood is, and I'll get to the flood in just a minute. it varies about other things that have to do with your property. So your insurance agent will look at a number of things on your property, but you should be getting a 4% discount if you built a house while we have this rating. Our flood insurance rating is a little bit different. It is a scale of 1 to 10, just like the building department rating and just like the fire department rating. But if you have a structure that's in the flood zone and you have flood insurance, because of our rating, which was the best in the state, we were a 5. There was no other city in the state that had a 5. And we just got bumped up to a 6, not because we had done anything wrong, but because the rating service changed the criteria because so many people were getting such big discounts that the program was continuing to lose money. So what they essentially did was go back and tighten the screws on all the activities that we take on to achieve that rating that we had. We were only 2 points over 2,500, so we were just over the mark to get the 5 rating. And when they tightened those screws and reevaluated us, it dropped us down to a little bit below 2,500. And as a result, we bumped up to a 6. Now, you should still be getting a 20% discount on your flood insurance premiums if you have a flood insurance policy and you're in the flood zone. And you should still be getting a 10% discount if you have a flood insurance policy and you live outside the flood zone. Now, there's a lot of things going on with the evaluation process right now. We're trying to navigate through that. What happened, it used to be a case of you were either in the flood zone or out of the flood zone. You were either in compliance or you were out of compliance, and all of those things determined what type of discount you got on your insurance policy. But FEMA has changed the way that they evaluate properties now. They do it by satellite, and a whole lot more criteria go into it now, where they take a satellite look at your property. They determine, are you on a slab or are you elevated? How close are you to the water? All of these things play into their rating now, so there may be some changes coming on flood insurance policy premiums. The last thing I was going to cover, just a couple of things. We're doing really good with development. We've got a little over $80 million worth of construction going on in the city right now. That's commercial and residential. One of the things that you want to see as a development department is to see commercial, residential, and even amusement going on at the same time, because that's the 3 areas that you look at to make sure that what's happening is balanced and it's bringing other people here. Interest rate increases are usually a death sentence for a development department. You know, just the rumor of interest rates going up typically will slow down everything or shut down everything, but it hasn't done that with us. And I've talked to some bankers about that, and they've explained to me that what's going on is that when you have low interest rates for a long period of time, people become complacent. Yeah, well, you know, we can wait. We don't have to build it right now. We can do whatever. When they see a little bump in the interest rates, what that does, it motivates them to get off the fence. And he said, what we're seeing right now, we're seeing that bump right now of people trying to get their project going before the interest rates go up again. So that's a good thing for us. It's keeping us moving forward. In addition to that, gaming, we just got gaming numbers in for last month, 1.9 million. Gaming numbers are really doing very well for the city. Also, sales tax revenues. After Hurricane Katrina, we were struggling to get even $800,000 or $900,000 a month off of our sales tax revenues. We set a target that we wanted to shoot for at least $1 million a month, and all of our efforts in the department were pushing to get that $1 million a month. Not only are we getting that now, we're actually averaging about $1.25 million a month, and we've done that for 17 months in a row. That's never happened in the history of Biloxi. So all the economic indicators are going really well, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Jared, before you finish, about how many short-term rentals do we have?
We have 365 short-term rentals in town. Now, some of those are in like a apartment complex that converted over, so it's not individuals. And with short-term rental, let me tell you the rules about it, because we have someone having to monitor this all the time. Short-term rental is not allowed in single-family zoning. And sometimes people will say, yeah, but they're operating a short-term rental in that single-family house next door. Well, it's possible that that single-family house is located on multifamily zoned property. And it is allowed as a conditional use in multifamily zoned property. So it's not a single-family structure. It's about the zoning of the property. Not allowed in single-family zoning, allowed as a conditional use in multifamily residential, allowed as a conditional use in a couple of the business zonings, and then allowed as a use by right in any of the zonings where a hotel is allowed. So we monitor that all the time, and we catch people advertising a single-family house on there. We write them up. So that's the process for enforcement.
One other is, how many medical marijuana dispensaries have you permitted?
We've only permitted 2 so far, but we've got a whole list of them that are going through the process to get open. So I'd say we've probably had 25 to 35 calls. Now, there are 7 different operations tied to medical marijuana. You got processing, you got growing, you've got dispensary, and the most popular is dispensary. And the dispensaries have to be 1,500 feet apart. They have to be in the right zoning, first of all, and they have to be at least 1,500 feet from another dispensary. And they also have to be at least 1,000 feet from any school, church, or daycare. And there is a variance process with the state on that where they can get that reduced down to 500 feet. But we're monitoring all that to make sure that they're doing it in compliance with the state law and with the city ordinance. So thank you very much.
Another great report, a lot going on. Jerry's also code enforcement, so when you have different issues that you point out, and by the way, I got 3 or 4 individuals that have volunteered to be ward captains, and they ride around and report back to me and give me some data so I can turn it in. Jerry knows, in addition to copying Mike, I bug him a lot and ask him to go check out certain issues that seem to be irregular, and they do a good job doing that. But great report, Jerry. Next we got our Parks and Recreation, and I focused this segment of the agenda just on, I want to give an update on our tennis court. Some of you may not realize we have a tennis court out at A.J. Holloway Sportsplex, and but I want to have a focus on that as well as pickleball. And so come on up, Jamie.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jamie Lee. I'm the Assistant Director of the Parks and Recreation Department, taking place for Director Bell. We just got done hosting the Mississippi Recreation and Parks Association Conference for the state organization here at the Golden Nugget the last 2 days, so she's finishing up there. The conference was a big success. We brought in around 100 professionals from all around the state, as well as Louisiana and Alabama for the conference, so that's finishing up tonight. So that was at the Nugget and was a success. Department-wise, you know, with the wet weather we've had previously and being, you know, a little short-staffed, we kind of fell behind on some of our grass cutting duties that we were able, but now that we're getting a little bit of cooler weather, the growing season is slowing down, and our divisions are almost back to full strength. You'll see our crews out getting caught up with those grasses, you know, cleaning off the sidewalks and everything in the parks. We also have a few playgrounds being installed in some areas, so you might see those going around with some demolition and new installation. You know, at Savaro on Irish Hill, we have one going up. Businessmen down by the DMR building on Bayview, and also we have some things going up at Pennzoil on Old Bay Road. So, you know, take a look at those. As Councilman Glavin was talking about, tennis courts, we do have 8 tennis courts out at the A.J. Holloway Sports Complex. We recently just hired 2 full-time employees out there to run, so those tennis courts are now available to you Monday through Sunday from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So check those out. It's kind of located back off between the softball fields and the baseball fields. Pickleball. Pickleball is is the new thing. It's growing not only in our area, but also nationwide. It's one of the fastest growing sports and activities that you can do. We do have 12 courts, of course, lighted out there at Pops Ferry. We also have a few set up, if it's cold or, inclement weather in the Donald Snyder Center on Pass Road that you can take advantage of. We have lessons available. We host some of our senior games events out there, and right now we are, trying to secure some funding for building some bathrooms out at the Pops Ferry complex, as well as a few more courts. So that's what we have going on in the department. If you need any more information, please see me after. Thank you.
And, I just had Jamie touch on those two things. There's many, many more than auditorium, all the parks, grass cutting that they share the responsibilities with Public Works and Parks and Rec. The council also adopted a measure a couple years ago that we contract services out for grass cutting as well. What we ran into is, these wages are going up and it's hard to get help. And the people that we've contracted these services to cut grass to fill in that void, they're unavailable. The price that we contracted with, we have to go back and renegotiate that, and that put a little bottleneck on some of that grass cutting this year. So hopefully we've corrected that in this budget session, and that'll get a lot better. So we're focusing on A.J. Holloway Sportsplex, and since I've been a councilman, we've tried to make improvements out there, whether it's painting or replacing a couple of water fountains or repairing a fence, really putting Band-Aids out there the last several years. I'm excited that FOFO took a real interest in A.J. Holloway Sportsplex and the other fields that we have, but particularly when we passed a $14 million bond, $6 million of it was earmarked to see if we can make improvements at A.J. Holloway Sportsplex. Now, are we going to spend that whole $6 million? I don't know. We hope that we can get other funding sources, so it's not $6 million of the bond. Maybe it's $5 million, maybe it's $4 million. And we're going to prioritize those projects. Each one of those projects have got to go before the council, get approved, and get vetted before we can issue a contract to make those improvements. But I'm really excited because I think it's at the core of what we do. It brings value to our properties, it brings quality of life to young families, and more importantly, our kids. And it gives an opportunity that if we upgrade that park, if there's inclement weather, we can quickly get back on those fields. We can practice on those fields, and I'm very involved with my grandson and other teams. We're going to Gulfport. Any given day that there's not a tournament at Gulfport, those fields are being practiced on. And there's fees that they pay to practice on those fields. And I think we're missing that opportunity, but I think we're going to take steps in the near future to take care of that. So I've asked Nick Moody to come up here and give a report on the findings by Machado and Patana engineers. They did an extensive study, and he can go into some fine details of there.
Appreciate it, Kenny.
Thank you.
Good evening. Like Kenny said, my name is Nick Moody. I'm with Machado Patana. We just formally changed our name to MP Design Group. We're a full architecture engineering firm located in downtown Biloxi, in the old McKisson Hall furniture store. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that building, but our partners purchased that building in 2016, 17, renovated it. Martini's sits on Howard and with the liquor store there. That's our building they lease from us. Our office is in the back, and it's been great to be down there. We love the spot. So like Kenny said, the mayor there was some interest in taking a look at some upgrades to A.J. Holloway, the complex. So fortunately, they reached out to us to take a look at it. And some of the things we looked at as part of our study is drainage. Main topic was drainage. I don't know if you've been out to the complex after a big rain event or been to try to go to a game at the soccer and football field after we've had some recent rain. It's very soggy. They don't drain very well. The drainage system, is 20 plus years old now. So we need to put some focus on that. And where those drainage system outfalls is a big drainage area by the parking lot. There's a lot of debris, a lot of vegetation, needs to be cleaned up. So that was one thing. Drainage is a big issue out there. Another one is parking. I know I go out there a lot. I have 4 children. 3 of them are in the youth programs in Biloxi. And for a soccer and football game, when there's games out there, it's hard to find a place to park close to those fields. So we've identified some areas where we can officially add some parking down there, and also near the the Little League and the softball fields. Maybe, like I said, add about 100 new spaces that are desperately needed out there. And then another thing that we didn't have on there, Kenny, but I just thought about, because I've been getting a lot of questions about it, is scoreboards at the Little League and softball. They haven't been working for some time, but I think that would be probably easy fix, a nice upgrade to get those back working for those games out there. And then moving over to the softball complex, the softball fields. If you've been out there, you can tell from the infield after rain, a lot of the dirt from the infields just wash off and get into the drainage system. You can see it all over the concrete. It's a constant maintenance issue for the employees out there. And one way to officially address that is install turf, synthetic turf. Kenny mentioned Gulfport, they installed turf probably back in 2016, and those fields stay packed. They stay booked up. People are constantly out there using them because after a rain, they don't have to cancel practice, cancel games. They're always open, and I think that'll alleviate some headache for the staff out there with the runoff every time it rains. They got to go out there and try to fix it. And then moving over to the Little League fields, same situation. The infields, they don't drain very well. The outfields, same situation. Big rain events, the complex has to be shut down. Kids can't get out there and practice, and can't play games. And also it deters, I know a big thing is travel ball right now with young kids in these tournaments that bring in a lot of teams from around the state, around the region. And they're not really looking at A.J. Holloway because of that reason. If they have a big rain event that happens on a Wednesday or Thursday, they may have to shut down or cancel the tournament, or cancel the tournament or look for somewhere else to have it. In my experience, a lot of these tournaments are going to Gulfport. Pascagoula has a new facility. D'Iberville has a new facility. So I think these upgrades could bring us up to par with some of our neighboring cities and their complexes. I think that's about it. Ken covered pretty much everything.
Appreciate it, Nick.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, man, I'm passionate about our kids, and Nick is too. And I mean, he's a good guy, and I see him out with those kids, and it's really important. It really is important. And when our kids are home because of a rain out, Ocean Springs, D'Iberville, Gulfport, and others are out there practicing. And our kids are at home waiting for our fields to dry out. And that shouldn't happen. But anyway, hopefully we'll get that corrected. Next is we're going to finalize the agenda today with Mr. Peter Abide. He's our city attorney. He's going to talk about some compelling opportunities with the school district.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Peter Abide. I've been city attorney 6 years, and if you watched to the end of this video, I congratulate you. So, first, I just sort of tell you how you all are here. Some of you who were in Nathan Barrett's ward earlier, after the census, the city is required to divide the population of the city evenly. And we first had a good census report. We increased from 44,000 to almost 50,000 in the city, which was one of the higher increases of any city in Mississippi. We jumped Hattiesburg as far as population. So Biloxi was, I think, the 6th largest city, maybe 5th, and now we're the 4th largest city in Mississippi. So we took those 50,000 people and we had to divide it roughly through 7 wards. Roughly 7 times 7 is 49. So we had to shift certain wards, and we're trying to put 7,000 people roughly in each ward. So Kenny, I think before, was totally south of I-10. And a lot of our growth was in Wool Market where Nathan was. So Kenny's ward line changed to take up about a third or so of the populated area that's north of I-10. So with that, we sort of have been looking at some issues that the mayor had brought up a while back when Harrison County passed a school bond issue. And he feels that if you live in Biloxi, you should have the opportunity to go to Biloxi schools or pay millage, which is the millage of a Biloxi school district. Biloxi schools are fortunate to be funded in part or subsidized by our gaming revenue. And the school millage for Biloxi School District is 12 mills lower than Harrison County. But if you live if you live anywhere north of I-10, you pay the Harrison County school millage. You get your postcards, you all get your postcards in December, and they tell you you have to pay it, but you don't have to pay it till January 30th. So like me, we wait till the last day and pay it the next year. But there are three lines on that millage card. There's a city millage, there's a county millage, and a school district millage. And it's interesting that in Biloxi, the city of Biloxi, we haven't raised the millage since gaming was passed 30 years ago. So our millage is as low or lower than any city on the coast. You actually pay more in county taxes than you do in city taxes. And you know, that's something that some people don't understand. They're like, why are taxes high? Well, you're paying for things that the county does, such as the courts and the sheriff, maybe the jail. You're paying for a lot of county roads, things like that. But the school district, that's set by certain statutes that say, even though Biloxi annexed parts of Wool Market, they all had to stay inside that Harrison County School District. And looking at that and looking at what we could do to try to make the opportunity available to lower millage for people that live north of the interstate, if you do live north of the interstate, rather than trying to explain it all now, just get with me or Kenny and send us a note. There's actually a petition process for certain neighborhoods or areas to say they would like to be in the Biloxi School District. And then we present that to the school board of Biloxi. They say they have the capacity. I mean, for example, Holly Bluff, which is right north of the interstate, Holly Bluff and Kimbrough, it's basically a mile and a half to Biloxi High. But they're in D'Iberville High School District. And so if a certain amount of those people, I think it's 51% of the voters, petition that they want to move, then the school boards have to try to work something out. And whether they can work something out, we don't know. Judge Steckler knows, you know, if you have some leverage, you can always try to work something out, right? Right. So it's a first step to what we need to do to sort of get Biloxi residents into Biloxi School District. It helps the school district. Otherwise, we're landlocked. While all of North Biloxi and Wool Market grows, all that tax base is going to the Harrison County School District instead of Biloxi. Now, they can send their kids to Biloxi for a $500 fee, but that's not fair either. And those of us who don't have kids anymore, that have gone off or don't have kids, you're paying for Harrison County School. And the bottom line is, you know, if you're a citizen of Biloxi, pay for Biloxi schools. So that's something we're going to be doing. We're going to hit certain neighborhoods. You can't take on the whole city of Wool Market at once, but it's something specific neighborhoods. Strategically, we want to try to get started on that. So that's it. Pete. And I'm sure you held everybody to the end that were watching this, Pete, so that was a good report. Listen, in conclusion, I just want to say this, man. When I ran for this office, you know, first of all, I thought, you know, they paid you like $25 a meeting to go to a meeting. I ran for it because, you know, I cared in my heart and I wanted to make a difference. And, you know, I'm so grateful that the people of Ward 6 have continued to allow me to serve everyone. I want to thank the directors tonight. I want to thank everybody that's showed up for this. And again, my wife for the pusheratas. I think that was the draw. Otherwise, we probably would only have about half the people here tonight. Like I said, I'll stay as long as necessary to answer any questions that you may have afterwards. If I can't answer anything or don't know the answer, I'll write it down and get you the answer. But I want to thank you for taking time to come out to this town hall meeting. Mr. Boudreaux.
Well, I had some questions for a couple of the directors that, you know, the answers may be beneficial to some of the people here. Has anybody explored the incremental process of putting that Potts Ferry Bridge in? In other words, you've already got one bridge there, and it's a drawbridge. It's functional. But instead of going for the whole enchilada, why don't we just put another 2 lanes next to it that's higher, that doesn't need a draw, and tackle that at one time, and then come back and replace the other bridge?
I'll let Mike comment on it a little bit more. What I do know is that we have looked at that in the past. You've seen the renderings, I believe. But I don't know where that project went to put one.
I know it's been looked at, but in terms of the height of the bridge, you still have to open the second bridge, get a coal barge through it. One of the things that is helping us move in the direction of lower bridges is we don't have the coal barges anymore, and that was the major reason for the draw to have to. We're not having to open it near as often.
Yeah, but when the hurricane comes, all those shrimp boats are coming through there, and we're stuck on the bridge. So, just something to think about.
No, it actually, I think it has been, but I'll get your phone number and call you.
It's on there.
Okay.
Boudreaux. For Mr. Lee, anybody thought about putting a pool out at the sports complex?
Well, not initially, but, you know, we're fighting the same thing nationwide as far as lifeguard shortage. You know, we're having to operate one of our pools right now on limited hours due to just not being able to staff it fully. You know, we're hoping that we're climbing out of that trend. We're actually interviewing a couple of candidates soon so hopefully we will be able to open both of our pools back to full capacity where we were.
Okay. Parking out there. Y'all realize that all the property adjacent to that complex is owned by the Biloxi school system.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it sounds like a perfect place to put a parking lot.
That's it. I believe that's in the plans.
Peter?
Isn't that in the plans for the parking, to use some of the school land?
Yeah, we would expand on some of the parking that's already there. That's could easily, I mean, some of the land's already ready, just clear a few trees, grade it, put some asphalt down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's considered city of Biloxi property or the school system.
The city and the school have kind of an agreement. I think we've modified that agreement recently. In the past, before this year, it was a year-to-year agreement, and we've went to a little bit longer lease. If we're going to put this significant funding, $3, $4, $6 million, and they agreed, we got a little bit longer lease if we're going to make those investments.
Kenny, the sports complex that we've been talking about is built on land owned by the school district.
Yes.
We lease it from them.
Okay. And my last comment is function accountability. You know, when we hire these contractors to come in and put these large city projects down and like the ball fields, you say that there's drainage issues. Okay, it doesn't take but about 3 months to figure out if it's going to drain or it's not. And at some point, you have to go back to that contractor and make sure if they didn't do it properly, that they come back and redo it.
Yeah.
That way, we're not throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars back into it a few years, just a few short years later. I mean, we need to hold these contractors accountable, just like on Wetzel Drive. You and I got together, Jerry may have been involved in this. Not 3 months after those lots were opened up and the new road was put down, they had, you know, one whole side of the road caved in. And I called you because I didn't want the city of Biloxi, our tax dollars, to go to fix that a year from now. And if it's still under warranty, it needed to be handled.
So what Paul's talking about, and Paul, I appreciate that, any of you that point out those things, generally you have a year, 2 years that warranty it, and they put up a bond, you know, to take care of anything that may go wrong. But after that period ends, it's on our penny, you know, after that.
So the important thing is if people, I can tell a story. A gentleman called me one day about a drainage project at his house and that people were working on. He said, "Who's QC on this job?" And I said, "You are, sir." He said, "What do you mean I am?" I said, "We can't be everywhere. We need the citizens of this city to pick up the phone and call us when they see something's wrong, and then we can do something about it." And he accepted that as his mission and to call me.
Well, I just remember.
But I think the point is, if that happened within 2 years of the construction and we knew about it, we should have called that bond.
Well, I recall a city council meeting here a while back after parts of the city streets that got, you know, all this millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever it was to redo drainage or water, sewer drainage in the streets. Nathan Barrett brought up in the city council meeting that he was disappointed to see water pooling up on brand new streets that are supposed to drain. He brought that up, and now I don't know if anything was ever done or anybody ever went back to that contractor to address it and correct it. But at some point, the city's going to have to throw millions of dollars to correct those problems.
You're right. You're right. I mean, if we have issues and we don't have the warranties and it expires, it's on our penny. But, you know, I hope that we do our due diligence. We can't catch everything. Mistakes are made, but they're not intentional. And I think we do our very best to catch the majority of them. So, but you're not wrong.
Biloxi looks better than it ever has, but it wasn't perfect. And we had a bad contractor that we fought tooth and nail all the way through that project.
You need to use that bond if it's necessary.
And we have. I mean, we've been in litigation. I mean, we fight. We definitely do fight. Peter can tell you that. Nick, you had your hand?
To touch on the A.J. Holloway drainage, I think that complex was started construction early 2000s, and I don't think anything drainage-wise has been improved or upgraded since then. So that's part of the money they're looking to spend out there is to address drainage that was installed 20 plus years ago, bring it up and get it back, functioning properly.
And then to add on top of the next thing, we as a department need to do a better job to make sure that the drain lines do stay cleaned out, that we do keep the vegetation areas cut back so that we do, just like anywhere else with any other water, that the water does have some place to go, that it isn't just staying in the pipes and then backflowing back into our fields for the runoff. Yes, sir.
We can do this, give and take here, or we can wrap it up, and I'll just be available, and some of the directors that can stay will be here. I don't want to hold everyone sitting in your chair if you have places to go.
I wanted to ask about the AJ. I'm glad that the project's being done. Thanks for the meeting, too.
Sure.
But most major projects address the downstream before the upstream's done. And where's all that water going to go to if you increase the drainage there?
We're not.
It's all going down to us,
Razor Bay,
and that has not been updated.
Razor Bay has got the permits, it can be dredged now.
Yeah,
I know you've been working on Brazier Bayou for years,
forever.
but you know, the drainage pipes haven't been cleaned since Katrina. I know they walked through them and cleaned out a bunch of stuff, so.
So
I'd like
I'm
to-
gonna give you my take on some things, because man, I've walked these neighborhoods year after year, month after month, and here's what I see, and some of you see this too. We have these drainage areas, these ditches, these subdivisions that have been put in, and they got this ditch that runs along the back of your houses and everything. So what happens year after decade, they grow into a forest, and things clog it up and get in the way, and it doesn't drain like it should properly drain. And I've ran into this a couple of times. About 5 years ago, I had the county coming out. They had their heavy equipment. I mean, they were ready. The bulldozer was getting ready to run and clean this ditch out. Problem would have been solved. And we got stopped because of a potential $100,000 penalty per day or whatever, because it's wetlands. And I mean, that was a ditch, and now the Corps of Engineers deems it wetlands. And it's hard for us to go in there and touch it. And what we can do is clean out the front of it a little bit, the root balls or whatever, to improve a little bit of drainage. And something has to break or move beyond our mentality of these wetland issues that originally were ditches. If we can get into these ditches and clean them out, we'd solve at least 50% of the problems that we're having.
And the Supreme Court just claw back the EPA's power over non-navigable water?
That's something I'd have to ask my congressman and all that kind of stuff. I'm really not privy to that. I know what I've been fighting on our level and on the county level, and with some of the attorneys, and they know it too. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir when I go complain about it, but we have got to find a way to get into these ditches that are not, they're wetlands, they may be wetlands, but they were supposed to serve as ditches to protect the residents that went into these subdivisions. And we'll continue to search for a way. I haven't been able to find the answer to that yet, because I'm running into the red tape, with the feds.
I mean, we had, all this was wetlands basically when we first moved in, before the schools and the
Sure.
storage units and all that, and that absorbed the water before it came down, so.
Any other question? A couple of questions, and I'm going to hang out here. And
I like what everybody's thinking. Of course, I'm in your new annexed area up on Paradise Lane, and I think we're going on 10 years now being part of the city. Because, 4 years before that, the Alphaville was fighting
Sure.
in court, litigation over. But anyway, get to the point, just due north of me is a sewage treatment plant. Through the woods, probably less than a half a mile. We have yet to have fire main, water, or the sewage. My number one is really the sewage. Fire main's out on the highway, it has yet to come in there. I mean, if you look around at the Alphaville and everything that they've annexed and gone up and all, the new school that they, oh, by the way, that's Harrison County, somebody said it was the Alphaville School, it's name only, belongs to the county. And, but the Alphaville gets a pass on a lot of that stuff. But anyway, all of them new subdivisions up there is on this sewage treatment plant. And I know you per se don't have the knowledge right now, but somebody needs to be a spokesman for us in Biloxi to find out when the Tri-County, however it is, wastewater management is going to get us on the sewer.
well, here's what, and again, my new ward area, and Mike, I hope you don't mind me saying this, we're getting ready to make some changes in engineering leadership, and maybe when we get that piece in place, I'll spend some time and come up there and see if I can get some information to fight for that, to get the infrastructure that you need.
Right. I mean, our road, we're getting ready to rename it from Paradise Lane to Patch Lane because of the, it's just falling apart, it's crumbling up. But there's no sense in paving it right now. I'm not hollering about that so much, just patch it every once in a while, until you get the infrastructure in there. You get your water and your fire main and sewage. Then you come build us a road in there.
I've been working with Beverly Martin on outlining a plan for the paving. We did a little bit in Wells Ferry, and we're looking at doing something, for your neck of the woods soon. So you'll look for that in the future. One more question?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Brenda?
Why does Biloxi
Why don't we have a dog leash law? I thought we did.
No, somebody told me there is.
Yeah, we do.
They do.
Well, why
I can
is
attest to that.
it?
Why is what?
It should be corrected then. Somebody should be around taking care of these running loose dogs.
If you see one, call me. Call me, I'll get animal control out there and we'll,
Animal control who told that we don't have.
they're wrong.
There's one in there,
We doubled the number of people working in animal control in this budget. We went
Two?
from 2 to 4.
Yeah. Oh, we went to 4?
There is a
Okay.
dog leash.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Can I compliment the police department?
Yes, sure.
I don't go to bed until about anywhere between 2 and 6 in the morning, and before I go to bed, I always go to the front window to look out, and very often there's a police car checking our neighborhood.
What did you do? What did, no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. All right, well, listen, that'll wrap it up. I'll hang out if there's a couple more questions, and you can always call or email me. I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you.